Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Ann Jonas. Ann Jonas, aka the Love Messenger, is passionate about guiding and supporting those that desire to become more of who they truly are. She honors and recognizes that there is transformational journey of remembering that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. The journey of life involves a lot of mud, and she is familiar with walking the Lotus path. She approaches her work from a holistic, intuitive, spiritual perspective with decades of experience as a body worker and birth doula, as well as a lifetime of being in service and always curious. Today, her most powerful gift is living as a being of love and light, offering transformational and perspective guidance. As an intuitive healer, body worker, channel, shamanic guide, speaker, workshop facilitator, and published author, as well as producer of Sacred Connection, Finding Our Path to Deeper Connection with Self and the Divine. Ann's life journey has been that of the Lotus, with plenty of mud. As she found her ground and stability from the depths of life challenges, she stood up to meet and accept her path. Ann's purpose this lifetime is to be part of this evolution in consciousness. And Ann, with that, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. I've been looking forward to our conversation for some time now.
Thank you so much, Dave. I've been looking forward to our conversations. The conversations we had in the background were really fabulous. So this is going to be fun to put this out to your audience and whoever ends up coming across this, my people, your people, anyone who's ready to hear about the teaching journey of Ann Jonas.
That's right. It's quite a journey it has been, just based on what I've understood from our pre-chat conversation. And we got to give a couple of shout outs. First to Candace Snyder, the host of Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities podcast. She's one of my favorite podcasters, one of my favorite people, and she has referred like-minded individuals to my podcast. Those will align with the general mission of the podcast. And also, I got to give you a shout out for introducing me to your podcast agent, Anastasia Lipsky. Anastasia and I had a great conversation, and I foresee a really productive working relationship between us in the future. So thank you for that as well, too.
Well, it's one big circle. Anastasia got me on Candace's show. This is all connected. So that's the truth is we are all connected. It's how we see it and how we feel it.
Yeah, we're all one, and we're all connected by the one common strand of humanity and that DNA that defines that strand of humanity. So whenever you're ready, I got some questions for you.
I am ready. Fire away.
The first question I have for you, Ann, is tell our audience about the experience or experiences that have shaped your life path and life passions today.
First, I'm going to say every moment of living, every choice I've made, those are the significant ones in the sense of recognizing that everything in this life is serving. And I'm going to talk about two very specific experiences that I walked through. Essentially, one of the biggest pieces of my spiritual journey was the divorce of my parents when I was 11. And that led me into doing therapy, which I'm so grateful that my mother designed that for us, and a lifetime of dropping in with my path at that time. And then 25 years later, when I was 36, which happened to be 20 years ago, my dad showed up at my mom's house and he shot and killed her. And there are so many layers as to how could that have happened? What prompted that? There are more hours than we have in this time together to go into the details. But the bottom line of what this whole story is they both ran that victim energy and that villain energy. Now, yes, my mother was a victim in this case. And yet, at the same time, my father was a victim in this case. Where was my mother a villain? She had her own stories. We all have our own stories. The truth is, behind closed doors, even from our partners and from our children, the only person that we're truly in relationship with is ourself and God. Whatever you want to call God. This is a show that I know you've been talking about God, Dave, and some people don't like that word in particular. Whatever word it is, I like to say goddess, mystery, universe, Ethel, that happens to be my mother's name. We're all one, and it's an energy source. That's the deepest relationship we'll ever have. It's the one we come in with. It's the one we leave with. And being witness to my parents and how they portrayed themselves, how they navigated their journey, that is a big key to what this whole spiritual experience was. So her death in that moment for me was, as I dropped in, I recognized it was for me, their journey. I come from a standpoint where we choose our parents. I believe in the knowing that as a spiritual being, which you introduced in my bio, having a human experience, we look down on this earth and we say, who are my parents and what are they going to teach me? And then we come on in. And from then we choose our partners, we choose our children. It's all one big experience. So those pieces were very core in my coming into awareness. And then after my mom died, I met the person who was to be my partner, my wife, that I had a child with. And we had a 4-year melanoma journey with her. And she left the planet when our daughter was 2. We had a powerful experience when we met in a bar, which is funny because that does happen. She picked me up. I mean, we didn't leave that night, but she stopped me coming out of the bathroom. She put her hand out and said, "Hi, my name's Erica." And I said, "Hi, my name's Ann." And when our hands touched, it was like some magical thing happened. Like we weren't in the bar anymore. For like 10 seconds, there was no sound. And I swear to God, it was like saying hello again. There was a familiarity I'd never experienced. And then we had this very difficult and challenging 5-year marriage with powerful energies and lessons and journeys. And I've also been very grateful to have a continued relationship with her and my parents and the whole posse of dead people in my life. Because as we already spoke into, it's all one. And this life doesn't end when we stop breathing.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about almost like the predetermination or contract of your parents' souls to engage in this relationship, I immediately went back to, and we may have had a conversation about this in our pre-chat about Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters, where he was working with an individual who had diagnosable mental health issues. And under regression hypnosis therapy, he discovered that she had, I believe it was 86 past lifetimes that her soul had lived, 13 of which were those unresolved issues were contributing to issues in this lifetime. So I'm a firm believer that we choose our parents. We choose the challenges that we are going to experience in this lifetime. I can even go as far as say we choose the amount of time we're going to spend in the physical form, the amount of time that it's going to take for us to learn the lessons that we need to learn, or our soul that needs to learn the lessons that it needs to learn. And once we have done that, then we go dancing off into another dimension with the option of coming back into the physical form so our soul can continue to evolve. So I've discovered that through the challenges with my own tragedies. And I think if we can embrace that perspective, I think it can eliminate or spend a lot less time beating ourselves up with guilt and shame over what we should have done, what we should have seen before that person transitions. So you're speaking the language that I have learned to embrace over the last 15 years of my life.
Yeah, exactly. And that place where we still have the opportunity to heal from the difficult relationships. There's the direct way through a medium, which I had the beauty of connecting with my father after he passed. I mean, his leaving the planet happened 18 months after my mom died. He went to jail. He was sentenced to basically a lifetime in prison. And then 6 months later, was found unconscious in his cell. And at first, my reaction was like, he needs to rot in jail. Like that was this energy. And then it was the understanding of actually what I love to say, that word understanding. What are you standing under? The inner standing, my inner knowing was that it was a more healing journey for all of us to have him actually leave the planet.
Yep.
And so we had the opportunity, my brother and I, to connect with a medium. And the idea actually was that I said to my brother, what are we going to do with him? There's no money, there's no will. And I said, oh, we should call mom because for 25 years, she helped us navigate. I mean, he had 4 suicide attempts. He had 4 marriages. There was a lot going on over that 25-year period. And she always helped us drop in with the experience we were having. And so I said to my brother, we should call mom. And then I was like, oh, we can't call mom. She's dead. I was like, yeah, we can. We're going to call the medium. And so that was the intended conversation, was to talk with my mom about what we should do with my dad. Well, my dad came in to that moment, and it was a powerful conversation. And his apology from the place of the awareness of him, he was 48 hours now out of body, and his recognition of looking at his life at that point and the pain that he had caused. Now, we've already talked about this. Everything happens for a reason. This is the teaching journey. We soul contract with people to come in and abuse them, hurt them. These are the teachings.
Yeah.
This is part of our learning. And yet still, souls have compassion. God is compassionate and loving, but that doesn't mean that God's going to protect us from navigating hard stuff. And so it was a beautiful opportunity to connect with my dad and have healing happen for my brother and I, for him in that moment. And then when the medium said we should call somebody in to help him cross over, my mom showed up. And it was magic. Like, they came together to put me on the planet, my brother and I on the planet, and they walked off into the light together.
Yeah, and I really think that regardless of the conflicts we have when we're living the human form, and when we're in soul, we're in spirit, that's all forgotten. It's all about love, light, and bliss. And I had a similar experience. My father had left when I was 5 years old. My mother raised me as an only child. And I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of resentment, both towards my mom and my dad. My dad for leaving and my mother for overprotecting me. But as I began to embrace more spiritual perspectives as a result of my own profound tragedy in my life, I was able to do ancestral healing with my father and with my mother. I understood the context of my father's actions, and I understood the reasons that my mother overprotected me, and that was through a very intuitive interfaith minister by the name of Patty Farino and a shamanic holistic practitioner by the name of Susan Roback, who together helped me find peace with the decisions that both my father and mother made. And which also goes to show you that not only is everyone in service to us, even those individuals whose actions we think are unexcusable. It proves that we can heal past relationships at any time in our lives. I was 60 when this occurred, and now I love my father as much as the mother who raised me. And I love my mother more because I understand the reasons why she overprotected me. And it's all because of the work I did with the worst tragedy of my life. And the other thing is, like you, I also believe that I have a soul tribe that's not a part of this world, but it's my parents, it's my daughter, it's my grandparents, it's everybody that has predeceased me and transitioned before me. And I know that I will see them again, and it'll be a wonderful reunion. But until now, I know they guide me in spirit. I can connect with them, and I've taken everything that I've learned from my ancestors and that's including my daughter. And that's made me the person who I am at this present moment. And I want to continue to grow. My narrative is always going to be reclaimed and redefined.
Absolutely. Well, when we look at choosing our parents, we're choosing a lineage, we're choosing genetics, if you will. You know, the concept of disease, and it's really dis-ease for me. Like I put a dash between the dis and the ease because it's how our soul self is out of ease, out of alignment with our human journey. Even though the human journey is here to teach the soul, guide the soul on its evolution, there can be ways that we can be one with our soul human self, and there can be ways that we are separated or disconnected.
Yeah.
And that's when the disease shows up in the body. And this idea that genetic conditions are related to genes or biology, well, everything's related to the soul journey. So it's all connected. I was listening to Greg Braden. One of the things he spoke into, which was so powerful, and you spoke a little bit about this, is ancient languages on our planets and on our planets. On our planet that are there, there's multiple planets, right? And numerology that's connected to letters, right? Have you heard, about this? The numerology, the letters represent a number. When you add up all the letters, you get the numbers. Words like heaven and soul, and also words that represent our chemistry, like the part of the periodic table, they all came to the same number, and the same number represented God, divinity. So this idea that our biology is literally God. And so there's no separation. There's no difference between whether we're incarnated into a human or we are, and what that human journey is. We're all an extension and an expression of divine source.
Absolutely. And I agree 100% with that. We weren't born mean. We weren't born damaged. The human experience, which in many ways we contracted for, basically contributed to those conflicts for us. And we had to figure out a way to transcend it and to become part of the evolution of teachers who want to make a difference on this planet. And for me, it's like, I've learned a long time ago that living a good life doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be unscathed from challenge. You're going to experience challenge no matter what kind of a life you lead. And it's our job to transcend it and to find meaning and to be of service as a result of it. So,
and to have gratitude for it. That's
absolutely.
a key piece of this is that when we have gratitude, we see our lives as empowering, even though it looks like it happened to us. Everything happens for us. Everything that we choose and that we choose the other person. Let's say we didn't choose it. Let's say it was a major accident or you were assaulted or, a fire burned down your house. Things that are completely out of your control. You wouldn't have chosen to be in that situation. And yet, when we choose to look at this life as a teaching journey, as an opportunity for growth and evolution, this is the key, is really recognizing that we are co-creating. We are making the choices that align with the experiences that will be here for us, to serve us. Not everybody gets the same stuff. Not everybody gets to have their dad shoot and kill their mom and then go through being widowed at 45 with a 2-year-old. This is my journey. But we all have our own. And that's where this is Earth School. Right? Everybody has a different experience, a different curriculum that they are moving through.
Absolutely. And the path to graduating from that curriculum is much different depending on what our life experiences are meant to be or actually are in the physical world. So,
and how many degrees we're getting.
That's right. Yeah. I think right now I'm going to stop at 2. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm on the 2 to 3 doctorate path. That's where I'm going. And here's the thing. There's no judgment to say that somebody else is I'm good at high school. There are people that we have experience with where quote unquote, bad things don't happen to them, right?
Mhm.
Nobody died. They've got grandparents, they got great grandparents. Everyone is here to have their own personal experience. And
Mhm.
there's no judgment that somebody's better, somebody's worse. It's irrelevant.
Yep. Yeah. It's what can we learn from witnessing each other's paths that we can absorb and take to expand our own belief systems, embrace new perspectives that are going to allow for our continued growth and our soul's continued growth. Not about who's better. I had a friend say once to me, he goes, Dave, if you get peace out of worshiping a meatball, then worship the meatball. I said, there you go. And I mean that just about sums it up. It's whenever is going to have meaning for you, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else. Who am I to say that that's right or wrong? So
Exactly.
I want to shift gears just for a second. I want to get back to your wife, Erica. Can you tell our audience just a little bit about her? I know you mentioned that she is still a part of your life today, if I can recall correctly. Can you explain to our audience, how she is still a part of your life after you get done talking about a little bit about her?
Yeah, this is going to be powerful to hear. Many have not heard about this type of dynamic. Like I said, we met in a bar and we had a powerful exchange of energy in that remembering. Very early into our relationship, we discovered that we have a connection energetically. And I've been an intuitive body worker at that point for 20 years. She and I were having a moment, fully clothed, by the way, on the couch. And she touched my lower back, and I had an incredibly orgasmic experience. And I said, wow, what'd you do? And she said, you felt that? And I said, yes. And what was so interesting about it was that she had been attempting to arouse someone in this way without success. But because I was aware of energy and how energy moves, that connection came together. So that type of energy sex, if you will, for a simpler way to say it, was a part of our relationship, part of our marriage, and part of our intimacy. And there we'd have these moments, even just having a kiss and an exchange, standing up in the kitchen, and that knee buckling orgasm, that could happen for me. And if she wasn't holding me, it was so powerful. So we have this very deep connection. We've already talked about past lives. And I do really recognize that as far as putting children on the planet, we connect with partners to enable a child to come through. Like I spoke of, my parents came together for their story, but so that I could be born. And so her brother was our donor. I carried our daughter. And so, the connections of how our daughter was meant to get on the planet through her, but not specifically, right? But
Mm.
through her family line, through her genetics. She's left the planet. She dies. I have a beautiful opportunity to connect with her, just like I did with my dad, because there was so much challenge in our marriage. As much as it was beautiful and amazing and an incredible learning journey, there was a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain, a lot of arguing. And as being basically the one to take care of our kid, take care of our animals, take care of our home, take care of her, there was a lot on me as a caregiver. And so one of the things that came through, I had the opportunity to connect with the same medium that we connected with for my dad. And one of the first things out of her mouth was, I'm so sorry, similar to my dad. And I knew how much you love me, and I know how hard I made it for you. So again, we have this place of when the soul leaves the body, there's a perspective. It's almost immediate. They go, wow, what a life. And then they go, wow, so much pain, or wow, so much beauty, whatever it was. They do a lot of wowing. And we had a wow moment connecting by phone. By phone.
Mm.
That's funny.
So it's like 1-800 pearly gates, and I can call anybody I want.
Yeah, I'm like phone a friend. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We don't need a phone to connect, but that's a beautiful way to start the process is through the medium, through the intermediary channel. So here we are. It's about a week after she has left the planet. And I have this moment because I had previously, before meeting her and marrying her, I fall in love with a person. Gender wasn't specific for me. I mean, you could call it bisexual if you want to label it. The idea was that the energy of the soul and the being was what I was attracted to.
Yep.
Still am. So here we are at the end of her, like she's gone. I'm wearing my wedding ring and her wedding ring, and I'm looking at my hands and I'm saying to myself, I wonder if the next person will be a man or a woman. And it's like, oh my God, Ann, she's been gone a week. What are you even thinking about? She says, of course you're going to meet somebody. You're too hot to waste. And I said, well, thank you. Okay. Like, I feel like I am hearing her now. And then I get that feeling at my lower back. And if I wasn't standing at a table, I would have fallen down. And that was powerful expression of intimacy beyond the veil.
Mm.
Yes, I had sex with dead people, but not the dead ones in the morgue, dead out of the body. And I'm not alone in this, what some might call a phenomenon or a gift to be able to engage in intimacy with soul body.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I was like, I've got to be making this up. And I'm standing in the kitchen. Then basically, I feel my right hand tingle and I hear the words, yes, I'm touching your hand. And then next thing, my lips tingle. And she says, yes, I'm kissing your lips. And it was this idea, kind of like the movie Ghost. It's not that far away from it.
No.
You see him in soul form. You see her experiencing him, even though she thinks she's crazy. So what's crazy is to not recognize that we're all one, no matter what the form is.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if that isn't solid evidence of the survival of consciousness, I don't know what is. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and that can manifest at any time. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking if that was my experience, that would be ultimate validation that it was in fact Erica. That it was in fact because of the sensation you got in your back, which is what you had when the first time you were on the couch. It was a very orgasmic experience. Just in terms of her personality coming out in spirit, that would be immediate validation for me, again, if that were my experience.
Yeah. Well, I feel that validation is an opportunity to accept something as truth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we say we're looking for validation. We feel something, we have an awareness of something, we recognize something, and then we look for validation, right? Which is basically just saying, yes, that is true.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. On the other side of the coin, we could look at that and say, invalidate it if we wanted to. Say, no, this isn't true. I mean, we have the right to judge what is meaningful for us and what isn't. And I tell my students, where I teach at Utica University, consciously embrace a perspective that is antithetical to your core beliefs and see if you can find any modicum of truth in that. And even if the truth is that you see no truth in it, you found your truth.
yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. We get to dismiss anything that doesn't feel aligned for us.
Mm-hmm.
We get to shift
Yep.
when we feel out of alignment and look for what would bring us into a more coherent way of relating with ourselves. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what anybody else feels or thinks about anything, especially your journey. The deal is that your choices, your freedom, your sovereignty, That's all with you.
Mhm.
That's really the key to this, is it's your relationship with you and God and all the people and all the things that come to play with you are
Mhm.
here to remind you of that.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I think we're speaking a lot of the same language too. I can see that we're kind of aligned on a lot of different pieces, which is nice. So, got to ask you about the Lotus Path. How you came up with the name, what's your mission, and the services you provide, and who's likely to request your services, and what is the significance personally for you of the Lotus?
Yes, great. Well, I got to go backwards in time. So, first of all, I had a friend who had tattoos. I mean, lots of people have tattoos.
Mhm.
But I was in a point where I realized that I wanted a tattoo on my backside. I wanted my cute little tramp stamp, but I felt that I wanted it to be spiritual in nature and not just some kind of script. I didn't know what it was I wanted, but I asked for an idea. And so I was in my friend's healing room. She was on a melanoma journey, interestingly, as well, meaning like how life kind of replicates itself over time, right? How we have similar experiences with different people over our journey.
Mhm.
She taught me so much around really seeing what wasn't here, her journey of her learning and her expansion. So it's really a beautiful, appropriate part of my story that she was here for the inception of the Lotus, even though it has nothing to do with her specifically. I was in her healing room and there was this little stained glass window. Didn't have any design or anything. It was just lines and colors. And I hear the words lotus flower, just like that. At first, I was like, I know what a lotus is, but yeah, that's a great idea. So the funny thing is, I went online looking for images to use as a design and found a painting from a man named Rosalvo who lives in Brazil. And we have been pen pals now like 22 years because I asked him if I could use his painting as a tattoo. So that began the Lotus. My first business that I had when I left the restaurant industry, which I was in for 15 years, was the Lotus Touch. And that was my bodywork, massage, and doula business. And I did doula work supporting families and babies to come on the planet for about 12 years, about 200 families that I had the blessing to be a part of. And then the Lotus Touch became the Lotus Coach when I shifted from doing doula work after Erica passed, and that was not as easy for me to do. And coaching was something I'd looked into doing therapy in my mid-20s and didn't find a program that I aligned with. And at the time, the industry of coaching had not come into fruition. So now it's like 2015 or so, and it's time for me to step into that role. And so I start out as the Lotus Coach. And then I had a dear friend come into my world, brilliant, brilliant woman who navigates, interestingly enough, the powerful journey, like my father, of bipolar, which is interesting because we give these names to people based on how they behave in the world. And what I see is when we hold people where they're at in their brilliance, and in their places where their edges are, and we don't condemn them with identities based on diagnoses.
Mhm.
When we recognize that everything is serving, we stop judging. And so, like, she definitely had a lifetime of ups and downs. And in her brilliance, she was tapped into God. And I believe that's really what mania is. Being in a manic state is a high that is very much aligned with spirit. But you're so off the planet in your real living that people can't handle it.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other podcast. But yes, let me bring it back in to say that she gifted me. She said, here, this is your new business, the Lotus Path. And when we dropped into what that means, it was super relevant. I am walking a Lotus Path life. Everybody is walking a Lotus Path life. Thich Nhat Hanh says, no mud, no lotus. The lotus flower literally grows in the mud. That's where it exists. It's born there, it's seeded there, it develops there, it blossoms there, and it dies there. That is how it exists. So if there is no mud, there is no lotus. Our lives are sprinkled and sometimes deeply immersed in mud. Mud, muck, poo, whatever you want to call it. All of it is here to support us in growing our blossom, the blossom of all the different levels of our evolution, the teachings that come along through our journey that support us in aligning with our evolutionary divine design and purpose. We all walk a lotus path.
Yeah, and I've said something similarly about my own grief journey, that sometimes we have to wallow in the muck before we can wallow through it. And we have to let the mud cover us. We have to let the mud embrace us, because that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And I think
The
there's
mud is serving. There are places in Calistoga in California, in the wine country, where you can literally go sit in mud, and it's a treatment. It's a treatment for your body.
Yeah.
So many people have, indigenous cultures have used mud as healing, as part of ritual. So in our Western world, anti-dirt, right? I mean, really, kids really need to eat dirt to get a balanced immune system. It's serving to have our bodies work through challenges on so many levels. So yes, I love the mud. Embrace the mud.
if you look at individuals that go for facials, they have mud packs. And I think getting in touch with the mud gets us in touch with Mother Earth too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And gives us an opportunity to show our gratitude for what Mother Earth has to offer and to be one with Mother Earth. We should all wallow in the mud.
Yes.
And play in the mud.
Play in the mud, journey through the mud. Well, and recognize again that everything is serving. And I love that we're bringing up Mother Nature in this fall season. The leaves are falling off the trees. And there is not one leaf that looks at another leaf and says, why are you still hanging on here? Or you're the first leaf to jump. Why are you such a go-getter? Nature is intuitive, and it exists in this way that is here to be with.
Yep.
Fire is, yes, it destroys things, but what comes from fire is transmutation.
Yep.
So as fire destroys, you have the nourishment to grow new life.
Yep.
Wind is a way that it moves and it shifts. It moves the weather. It shifts the earth itself. That is our expression. When we really tap into the air that is our life force, first of all, as a human being. I mean, we all breathe air. And we take, then what's the first thing everybody says when we're born? Where's that baby's cry? That's the expression of that baby breathing. And then we talk so much about the last breath, raspy breath that we hear about when somebody leaves the planet. So air is our life force. It's our expression. We're made of water. So is the earth. The amount of, the percentage of water in our body is the same percentage of water on the earth.
Yep.
Everything that is this earth is here to nourish us, and we get to take cues from nature.
Yep.
So yes, absolutely.
Anything else you want to add about the services that you provide for the Lotus Path? Anything before we move on to another topic?
Yes, I forgot. That was the second part of the question. Okay, so here's another interesting part of this. So I've been doing body work. I've been doing doula work. I've been a friend to many.
Mhm.
And all my life, I've had experiences where people would say to me, "Oh, that's exactly where I'm hurting," or "That's exactly what I needed to hear." And my response would be, "Wow, cool, great. Know what I did," or "I didn't know what I said." Well, I didn't know that what all that was intuition. I didn't know that I was a conduit for information. And so over my evolution, I've come to recognize that that's what all that is, and that I am a channel. And so to go back to that moment when I was looking for my tattoo idea, that first lotus was actually lot us, Lotus, two different words, lot us. And I've come to find out in the last couple of years through my journey of stepping into identifying as an intuitive channel, an intuitive healer, that Lot Us is a team that I channel. Now, many people have maybe heard of Abraham, Esther Hicks, who channels that consciousness, Bashar, Daryl Anka. There's many that, have become famous over the years. Lee Harris and the Z's. Lot Us is the team that moves through me. And there are times where they're online, if you will, and I'll do channeling and their voice will come through. And there are other beings that have come through my heart, like the posse of dead people or other ascended masters that I'm so honored and grateful to be connected with. Again, we're all one. Everybody has the opportunity to be connected to anyone who does not live on the planet or who does live on the planet. We're all one. The animals, the earth, we've already spoken into that. So what my work has evolved into as the love messenger and the business of the Lotus Path, as you spoke into in my bio, is that I hold space for where people are at. And I support people in accessing the information from within. I don't have a program that's going to teach you how to get there. What I offer, what I hold space for, is to ignite the inner wisdom, to touch into the blossom that is your God-given right. And so that's what the Lotus Path is the reminder that we are all here to
Yep.
learn.
And yep. And the reminder that everything we need is inside of us.
Yep, exactly.
All we have to do is empower ourselves and be confident enough to access that and trust it.
Trust, that word trust has the word us in it.
Yep.
So there's another word that I don't use very often. Sometimes it slips out, believe. That word actually has the word lie in it. So it's interesting, what we have been taught to understand, which is outside of ourselves.
Yep.
So the more that we really recognize, we're all channels. Everybody's a channel. You're a channel as soul and body combined. Our energy centers, our chakra ladder, that's a channel. So depending on how you want to look at it, the truth is that we are all channels for divine source.
Yep. Yep. If we're open to it, and like I said, if we believe that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a walk into your journey as an author. Tell our audience about your chapter, Love is Everything, in the book Sacred Connection. What do you want readers to take away from it, Ann?
So that is yes, thank you. That is actually my second published chapter. And I'm going to back up and say the first time I was published was in a book called Empowered Self-Care, Healing Body, Mind, and Spirit. And the title of that chapter was From Mud to Lotus. So that chapter really embraced the story of my parents and the story of Erica and the 7 keys strategies to conscious living, which was the idea was that everything is serving, our lives, blah, 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 all that stuff. Okay. My relationship with God has been quite a journey. And being raised Jewish, where you couldn't even spell it, was G/D. I didn't get anything from the actual energy, the essence of God. And then I became a Baha'i when, in my teenage years after I had my bat mitzvah. And so still kind of like dancing in this whole God thing, didn't really get the God thing. And then decided to reject the patriarchy. And in my early 20s, went into goddess religion and Wicca and spirituality and yoga. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Everybody's saying the same thing. I didn't need a comparative religions class to show me that. And then to see where people used God as a tool for disconnection, for to be disappointing, to be not serving. And I felt like the energy that I had always experienced in my being, that didn't make sense. That didn't feel aligned. So I had to find my way through coming into a relationship with God. And there are many stories that showed me and taught me so that I could feel the presence of the divine. And the whole reason that sacred connection even exists is that I was at a point past COVID where all my work had been taken away, my in-person body work, workshops, retreats, like everybody else. I'd stepped into a shamanic practitioner training, but I didn't have any way to hold all of the stuff, the abilities that I am. And I was basically at a point where I said, okay, God, come to me in my sleep and give me my next steps. And basically that happened. Not the first night, but it did happen the second night. So sometimes you got to try this again. So I went for the second night and I was basically downloaded what turned into about the length of a chapter of my first book that spoke into, we are so disconnected from our parts. We are all everything. We're all navigate depression and addiction and manic. We all navigate humor. We navigate smallness. We navigate great. We all of us do, whether we're willing to admit it or not. I was told that I was going to do this thing called Sacred Connection. And it was going to be a 9-week webinar. I was going to find 8 people to be a co-host for 8 of the weeks. I took week 1. And I did the first round of Sacred Connection in October of 2022, 3 years ago. That basically led to publishing the book. And I just completed the 99th week of Sacred Connection. Round 11 ended. And we'll start round 12 in January for the 100th week. And I have been so honored to hold this container where we have these beautiful, potent conversations about how we connect with ourselves and the divine. And so that's where the book came from. And love is everything is essentially the relationship with God. God is love. God is light. I am that I am. The essence of beingness, of oneness. And so that whole chapter is my story. The 6 other chapters that are in that book, there are 7 chapters from 6 other co-hosts of Sacred Connection, all shared their own personal, vulnerable journeys that help them come to the recognition, the remembering, and the awareness of their relationship with self and God. And that's what this is all about.
It sounds like a very worthy initiative, and my guess is that's going to have resounding impact for generations and generations to come.
That's my desire.
I have to ask you one other question. I found this, I interpreted this from just reading on your website about Sacred Connection, about authenticity. And why is authenticity so crucial, in your opinion, in your belief, to building supportive communities? And can we build supportive communities without authenticity?
That is a great question. And that has been really showing up in my world over this last 6 months more than any other time in my life, seeing myself as somebody here to help and support. I came out of the womb to help and support people. And sometimes to my own detriment. And what does that mean? That means that I was a helper, fixer, savior. I had all these wonderful businesses. I've had a bazillion clients over the last 20 plus years. And there's been this place where my relationship with me, my self-worth, my value was really not as grounded. And I would say that in part because my desire to have others experience me as the helper versus me actually supporting them. So I got my worth from being the helper, fixer, savior.
Yep.
The other places that show up are we all have addictions. We all have depression. Our world for the last, what has it been, 15 years now of social media? Facebook came out, in like 2005, 20 years now, where we have been able to put on a pretty face, right? Like we've got our vacation face and we've got our kids going back to school face. And this is what our world has come into, as well as how we see politics, how we see medicine, how we see business, religion, education. We see what we believe inside. The world we see outside is who we're being inside. That is the bottom line to all of this. That's where you are essentially the one that's responsible for your life. Nobody else. Nobody gives you freedom. Nobody gives you sovereignty, no matter what country you live in. Authenticity is about recognizing that you are in alignment with you, that you are true to you, and that the truth of who you're being is how you're showing up for your family, for your community, on Facebook. When all of that is aligned in oneness, that's the strongest version of you that could ever be present.
Yeah, and if we can be authentic in all areas of our lives, that this is who we are, this is what we believe, I think we can model that for other individuals in our community who may be having difficulty finding alignment with their true self and values.
Absolutely. And that is it. Again, that's what I have recognized as my path, is to walk that path of authenticity, to speak truth from within, to meet others where they're at. And that's really all of our journey. Don Miguel Ruiz and the Four Agreements, the Toltec wisdom, talks about how we are the star of our own show. Everybody is the star of their own show. And that means that we are supporting actors for everybody else that's out in the world. We're co-creating our lives through the dynamics of the relationships that we're a part of. It is a personal journey. It's a solo journey, but it's not meant to be done alone. We can't do it all by ourselves in a room. So everything that we engage with and interact with in everybody else's personalities is a part of our expression.
Yep.
So it is personal. It's your journey. You're co-creating it. And it's important to not take somebody else's journey personal. So this is so much about like what authenticity is aligning with what's true for you and not worrying about what anybody else has to say about you, because anything that they have to say about you is solely about them. Remember, what you're saying about somebody else is about you. I mean, this idea of pointing a finger, 3 fingers are pointed back at you. So whatever you're offering, remember that 3 times that amount is a message for yourself.
Yep. And I don't believe I have the right to point the finger at anybody else in terms of what their authentic path may be, or if I agree or disagree with it. As I say, if you're being true to yourself, that's all that matters. I can align with that. I've told, individuals in my life, you got something to say it to me. If you think I'm an ass, tell me to my face I'm an ass. I don't want to hear from somebody else that you think I'm an ass, because I'm going to pull you into my office and just say, well, why couldn't you have told me that yourself? We could have had a really good conversation. And to me, that's the other part about authenticity, is also being able to confront the not so good moments between us and be able to share what we see or to share our feelings with that without fear of being attacked or fear of being otherwise marginalized.
Well, that's the true healing, is
Mm-hmm.
being willing, as you said, to show up vulnerably.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that we're either walking around as a victor holding, the sword of force, or we're a victim holding the sword of power, because there is power in being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see that the two of them together are what I love to call the valley of vulnerability, like when we recognize that we hold within us, I mean, Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, it's us. I'm the victim, I'm the villain, I'm the hero, because it's my story.
Mm-hmm.
So when we give our power away to somebody else to be the hero for us, to be the villain for us, everything is here to really show us how we're walking our own life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And all we have to do is be aware enough to see what it has to teach us.
Absolutely. Listen, to listen from within, to listen for the guidance, to witness the synchronicities and the power of this life is always showing us the way.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
If you choose to look, you're going to see magic everywhere aligning with you. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy peasy. It's not about that. It's not about easy. It's about surrender. It's about allowing. It's about trusting. It's about having gratitude and moving on. Because
Yeah.
guess what? This is the only important moment right here, right now. When you're here now, N-O-W, you've won. W-O-N. Flip that word. And you're one with everything, O-N-E. And you own it, O-W-N. It's literally written in our language how much we can choose our own path.
Yeah, and one of the things, I didn't realize that there was so much interchangeability between words. You've given me 3 or 4 different meanings for the same word. So this has been an experience where I've become a learner as well, just listen, because I hadn't looked at language like that before.
I
So thank
love playing with language. We call it spelling. It's like spelling is like casting spells from the witchy woo ways. We literally cast spells with our words, with our language.
we
And
do.
it's like,
And
how do you desire to be showing up for you and the collective in what's coming out of your mouth?
And I think we also have to be mindful of the language you use towards each other, because it's very difficult to take something back that has been said in anger. One of the things I've learned in my own grief journey is to be mindful of the words that I used. I never thought about that before until I had my own worst tragedy with my daughter's transition. But ever since then, I've said, okay, if I were in this situation, what should I say? What shouldn't I say? What could I think could be insensitive? What could I think could be a trigger? So I become more mindful of that now, because I think that also how we speak to each other, how we relate to each other verbally, can set the stage for building really supportive communities as well, too.
Well, I love that you're saying that. I've been talking for a good hour and I love it 10-10. I love when the magic numbers show up. This idea around how I see the world and how I've navigated my own journeys.
Yep.
That doesn't mean I'm going to walk up to somebody who is in a grief state, who had a loss or is navigating something challenging and say, oh, well, everything happens for a reason, right? I have empathy. I have compassion, right? And at the same time, this idea of feeling sorry for somebody else's situation,
Mhm.
like, I'm not sorry that I had my life experiences. They've all been part of my journey. And I'm never going to be sorry that somebody else had a challenging experience, but I can be with them. I can recognize where they are. I can honor that there's been a loss or there's been pain. And I can sit with them. And honestly, if you're ever looking for what people need in that state, is to sit with them.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything to say.
No. Yeah, our presence can be a powerful tool for healing.
Absolutely.
And I could probably sit and talk to you for about another 2 hours, but I've got a couple of more questions that I want to ask you to wrap up our discussion. The first is, if you're going to leave our listeners with just one ultimate wisdom takeaway today, what would that be?
It really is be here now. In the vein of recognizing that you're here now, then that means that anything that's in the past, anything that's in the future are wrapped into the oneness. And that really is the most serving way to walk through life. It allows you to be truly surrendered into the moment without judgment, without anticipation, without anxiety, without fear. That really is be here now. That's Ram Dass also, but that's okay. I'm borrowing.
I borrow from Ram Dass all the time. One of my favorite teachings of his is we're all just walking each other home.
Absolutely.
And that's the one thing that I always turn to, especially when we take a look at being present for others' journeys, is that's what we're doing. We are all just walking each other home.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to give you a little chance here to promote yourself a little bit, to tell us about how individuals could get in touch with you, find out how they could work with you, purchase your book or books. What's the best way for them to do that? And all of this will be in the episode notes when we go live on YouTube and my other podcast platforms.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. thelotuspath.love, thelotuspath.love. That is where you're going to find everything about me, from working one-to-one in a state of transformational guidance along the enlightenment pathway, to joining an upcoming Sacred Connection 9-week webinar, to being a part of the Sacred Connection community. There is a membership portal. There are portal energy perspective guidance episodes that you'll find through my website and also on my YouTube channel. So Ann the Love Messenger is everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I'm even on TikTok, thanks to my teenage daughter. So yes, there are many ways to view my offerings, my perspectives, my shares, my embodiments, my teachings.
Thank you for that, Ann, and thank you so much today for a wonderful conversation. I truly enjoyed it and hope we can do it again sometime.
I look forward to it. It's been an honor, Dave. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Ann. And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.
Yes.